Have you ever looked around and felt like everyone else is somehow ahead? Ahead in career, ahead in relationships, ahead in life, and yet when people look at you, they think you're doing fine. You function, you smile, you keep moving, but inside there's a quiet pressure. A feeling that time is moving faster for everyone else. The strange part, many people who feel behind aren't actually behind at all. They're simply measuring themselves by timelines that were never meant for them. There is a moment many people experience but rarely admit. It happens while scrolling through social media, while attending a reunion, while hearing casual updates from friends. Someone announces a promotion, another gets married, someone buys a home, someone seems to have everything figured out, and without warning a quiet thought appears. Am I late? Not dramatically, not loudly, just a subtle shift in the chest and a sense that somehow the world is moving forward while you are still trying to find your place within it. People who feel behind rarely talk about it, because from the outside their life looks stable enough. They are functioning, responsible, moving step by step. But internally, comparison begins to whisper. One of the strongest psychological illusions we absorb growing up is the idea that life follows a fixed schedule. Graduate by this age, achieve this milestone by that age, be financially stable by this point, have relationships figured out by another. These expectations are rarely spoken directly, yet they are everywhere, in media, conversations, family expectations, and subtle social cues. Over time, the brain begins to internalize an invisible clock. And when reality does not match that clock, something uncomfortable happens. We begin to interpret difference as failure. But life is not synchronized. People begin careers at different moments, find purpose at different ages, develop emotional maturity at different speeds, discover their real direction, long after the world expects them to have already chosen it. Feeling behind is often not about actual delay. It is about comparing your internal timeline to someone else's visible milestones. Not everyone experiences this feeling equally. People who are more introspective, more reflective, and more self-aware often feel it more intensely because they do not simply observe where they are. They evaluate what it means. They replay decisions. They question paths. They analyze whether they are moving correctly. This constant internal reflection, while powerful, can create the illusion of stagnation. Because when you are deeply evaluating your direction, progress often looks slower from the outside, but slow movement is not lack of movement. Sometimes it is precision. Many people who feel behind carry expectations they never consciously chose. Expectations absorbed from parents, from cultural norms, from peer comparison, from subtle childhood messaging about success and worth. Some grew up hearing, "You should already know what you want. You should be settled by now." Others your age already have this figured out. Even when those voices are no longer present, their echoes remain inside the nervous system, and the mind begins to measure itself against standards that were never fully questioned. Here is something rarely acknowledged. People who feel behind are often the ones doing the deepest internal work. They are questioning what truly matters, reconsidering paths that don't feel aligned, learning emotional awareness, unlearning patterns that once felt normal. This type of growth is invisible. It does not appear in announcements or milestone posts, but internally it is profound. Sometimes what looks like being behind is actually stepping off a path that was never right in the first place. And building a life intentionally takes longer than simply following expectations. Comparison is not always loud, often it is subtle. A background calculation running quietly in the mind. Where am I compared to them? Should I be further by now? Did I miss my chance? Over time, these thoughts create emotional fatigue. Not because life is failing, but because the mind is constantly measuring progress against external reference points. And when the brain believes it is late, motivation often decreases instead of increasing, because the goal begins to feel unreachable. This is why many capable people temporarily slow down, not from lack of ability, but from psychological discouragement. Strangely, feeling behind sometimes protects people from rushing into lives that do not truly fit them. Some people who move fast later realize they built careers or relationships based on pressure rather than alignment. Those who pause, even if they feel uncertain, are often quietly building clarity. Clarity is slow, but clarity prevents regret. The people who appear behind today are often the ones who move forward later with far greater certainty. The feeling of being behind is not always a signal that something is wrong. Often it is a signal that you are becoming more conscious. You are beginning to see that success is not one-dimensional, that timelines are not universal, that fulfillment cannot be copied from someone else's blueprint. This awareness can feel uncomfortable at first because it removes the illusion of certainty, but it also creates freedom. The freedom to build a life intentionally rather than automatically. Instead of asking, "Why am I behind?" a more powerful question emerges. What direction is actually right for me? When attention shifts from comparison to direction, pressure begins to transform into clarity. Progress becomes personal instead of competitive, and growth becomes sustainable rather than rushed. If you sometimes feel behind in life, there is something important to understand. Many of the people who appear ahead are still searching internally, and many of the people who feel late are quietly building foundations that last. Life does not move in one straight, synchronized line. It unfolds in individual rhythms, some fast, some slow, all valid. You are not late. You are not failing. You are simply moving through a timeline that belongs uniquely to you. And sometimes the people who take longer to find their direction are the ones who eventually walk it with the greatest certainty.